the minutes from our last meeting, please? I see that's moved by Supervisor Driscoll and seconded by Supervisor Leggett. Thank you. At this point, or all in favor, I apologize. I should take a vote on that. Everyone's good. In the boardroom, everyone's good, Amanda?
Yep.
Great. Opposed? Sounds like there aren't any. That motion carries. Thank you. Today, we just are hearing from our public defender. Marcy is here to speak with us about some items that she has that she would like some discussion on. So the first action item today is if we could get a motion on the floor for a notice of intent to fill a vacant position. This is the coordinating assistant public defender. And I can let Marcy go into the rationale behind it, but just to get a motion on the floor for further discussion. Would anyone like to make that? That motion is made by Supervisor Leggett. And unfortunately, Supervisor Beatty, thank you. Seconded by. Okay, great. All in favor? Or I'm sorry, I shouldn't call the vote yet. We have a motion to get it on the floor. I'm out of it this morning. Marcy, would you like to talk a little bit about why you're requesting that?
Yes, it is the position I previously had requested and you had approved. It's fully funded by Office of Indigent Legal Services. I have the funding for it, but I haven't filled it. I was trying to fill it before COVID, and then that happened and I stopped filling positions. So it is fully funded grant. The county pays nothing for it. If the funding goes away, the position goes away. It is all grant funded.
Thank you.
In case you need
Are there questions regarding that motion this morning from anyone? Supervisor Beatty?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that if the funding goes away, the position goes away. I know at times we have a tendency to, when funding goes away, sometimes we keep the positions and find other means to fund them. And obviously in these times we can't be doing that. So I'm glad to hear that. And Marcy's full on board with that. And the individual who we do hire obviously has to be clearly aware of that scenario. So, okay, thanks. I'm good.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks. Are there other questions? Supervisor Leggett?
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman. And the eighth position has always been there, or has been there for several years, correct?
This position has been here for at least a year and we haven't filled it because of some space issues and wanting to get the right person. I had posted the position, gotten some resumes in, but did not get far on interviewing due to COVID.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions regarding this resolution? Amanda, I assume if there's something from the boardroom, you'll just chime in because the camera doesn't go to any of the supervisors that are there.
I will.
Thank you. Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Going to our second request this morning to get a motion on the floor is a notice of intent to fill a vacant position, assistant public defender, and this is the eighth assistant public defender. So again, if we could get a motion on the floor, and then we can address any questions. And it looks like that motion is made this morning by. Well, this is exciting, that motion. Supervisor Beatty, did I hear you? Thank you. Supervisor Leggett. And the second on Supervisor Driscoll. That's great. Thanks. Marcy, can you talk a little bit about this resolution?
Yes. Again, this is a position that has been opened. Originally, it was the third assistant public defender, and we switched the third and eighth so that the eighth was, the salary was $63,393. We took the salary for the third, which is now this one, which is now the eighth, for $69,891. It is 90.05% funded by the state, and $6,598 is funded by the county. We have not spent this salary since the beginning of the year. The person left on January 1st, and so this position has been vacant. So I would like to fill it so I could get enough staff to cover the courts that we need.
Thank you. Are there questions regarding this position or this resolution? Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah. Are the number of cases up in the county? I think having 8 assistants seems a little excessive to me, but maybe it isn't. Marcy, what percentage of case increase over the last few years? I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but I'm kind of curious. Maybe we don't need it, maybe we do, but I don't have that data of what type of increases we're seeing in cases. So maybe you could supply that. Thanks.
Certainly. This position existed before COVID, but I didn't have a chance to fill it. I had gotten resumes and I was interviewing for it, but then I stopped because of COVID. So it was a position that we needed before in order to cover cases sufficiently. One of the issues that I have with Office of Indigent Legal Services is if I get rid of positions that have county funding in it, they may get rid of some of my positions that they fund, because remember, it's to supplement and not supplant. In terms of cases, this year, our cases are down because of COVID. I believe that the police agencies were making only arrests that they absolutely had to, mostly domestic violence cases, things where somebody needed an order of protection. However, things are getting really hot again now. So I can't give you specific numbers. I didn't come upstairs with my statistics in front of me. I certainly will follow up with an email to you to let you know our stats of last year and our stats of this year. I can get that to you by the end of the day today, but I don't have it with me. But I know during COVID, our numbers were down. This would keep us at the same number of attorneys that the DA's office has. So we are trying to keep, they requested a new position, their last new position, because I had gotten a position. So we also cover family court and we cover parole, and the DA's office does not cover that. We do cover a lion's share of the criminal defense as well, based on financial requirements. So I can't give you the exact numbers you want. I understand what you want. I can get that to you at the end of the day, but that's my reasoning. And I do think I do need the position. I don't have enough attorneys. There's a caseload level that they want us to have, they meaning Office of Indigent Legal Services. And I am over that on some of the attorneys right now in terms of the number of cases they have. The number, I believe, is 307 cases per year based on if it's a felony, a family court, or misdemeanor. There's different weight levels given based on the different cases. And so last year we were substantially over, and that was one of the, that becomes a problem in terms of funding with Office of Indigent Legal Services.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Second, fourth, no.
Does anyone oppose? No? Great, that motion carries. Thank you. Marcy, the next item on your agenda is to discuss regarding your concerns about office space. And I know we've been working with facilities on that, and Kevin Hajos is here today to answer questions or to share with the committee some of that progress. I don't think a decision has been made regarding what's going to work best, but lots of options have been looked into. And if you just want to, I know you just wanted to give an update today, Marcy, but we're all very committed to continuing to be dedicated to finding a solution, a safe and reasonable solution for your office. So
I appreciate that. I'd like to add one thing to that, if you don't mind. The positions that I want to hire, I can't hire until I have space for them. So I may, even if you approve me hiring, I can't hire until I have a place to put them. We can't do double-decker desks. So there's two space areas in the Human Services building that I'd like to bring up. The first one is the one that I support the best, would be on the first floor. It is when you come in the main entryway, you take a left, and there's a series of 5 offices that are in a row. 4 are supposed to be vacant. I saw someone in one of them. And then the 5th one looks like a child interview room or a parent-child interviews monitoring visitation room. The 4 offices in a row are self-contained. They are not near other things. Kevin has maps up on the wall there, and there's lots of things between me and the wall, so I can't really judge it well. But in terms of, I like that space because you could, in each one of those 4 offices, you could have an attorney and a client visiting. Right now, that's a problem for me. Also, the desks are secured in the room so that the client would have to physically jump over the desk to try to get the attorney and they have a separate door to come in, and my attorney has a separate door to come in on opposite sides. Both doors to the room open, one on each side, and it requires no modification or expense for modification in the county. So my request was for those 5 lines of desks. I'd like the 5th one because that would allow me to have an attorney with 2 people in the office. If you're preparing for a trial or a hearing, often we always do it with 2 attorneys and the client. I have no space right now to speak to an attorney, 2 attorneys and 1 client in the room. I don't have any space big enough. I did have a conference room due to the ventilation in that room. I can't use that. So, because it's in the old evidence locker, we are in the old jail. Okay. So that last space would be really helpful. So that is my proposal, what I'd like. In addition, on Friday, Kevin took me upstairs to look at space up on the 2nd floor. It is 2 offices which are closed, which is great. And one is definitely big enough to have somebody else in there with it. It's currently used as a supply closet right now, and it's a bigger office. On the other side is where Veteran Services is, which is Denise DeRista's office and space. It would require me taking her only 2 offices that she has that have doors that are closed. They would have Buildings and Grounds would have to put a door in and a hallway to separate my offices so we could access hers, and that would leave her with 2 open areas that she uses file cabinets for staff. I think that's an expense on the county. I understand that Office of Indigent Legal Services would pay for some refurbishing if necessary for my budget, but that means I'm taking it from something else. I never put in my budget to refurbish space because I didn't know I was going to need to do that. So therefore, I'm going to lose money from another budget line that I already have. They're not going to give me additional money for space for refurbishing. I believe, and we've talked about it in the prior meetings, that the Office of Indigent Legal Services will allow us to pay for renting space from the county because we never had that space. Again, it's coming out of another budget line that I already have. There was never money for space rental because I didn't need it before, but now I do, and therefore that's coming out of another budget line. So I think for me, keeping my clients and my attorneys away from the rest of the buildings rest of the people, employees in that building would make people more comfortable. My clients have been charged with crimes. I am not bringing any family clients or family court attorneys into that building. It would be very difficult for the client to feel comfortable that we are defending them if we bring them into a building where the people who are witnesses against them are working. It would be uncomfortable for them. It'd be like me taking space in the sheriff's department. My clients will not want to come in and talk to me in there. It's that kind of thing. So I would move 4 criminal attorneys who only do criminal law into that space. And having them only on the 1st floor where there's minimum contact and they're not going to be dealing with other people, to me is very important for the safety and security of the people in the Human Services building. And moving it up to the 2nd floor, you come off the elevator and you take a right. And so you're going down a hallway. The bathrooms are near there, which is great, but that means you're going to have other people in Human Services building coming in contact or potentially having contact, could also hear our clients talking as they're talking to us as they walk by the hallway. So for the confidentiality and the security, the first floor space is perfect because you won't have people walking by listening to what you're saying with your client. There'll be minimum contact of people walking down that hallway. And I think that is the best space. Again, I'm not in charge of the space. The decision is from Buildings and Grounds Facilities and everybody else who gets a say in it. I'm just saying I need space. But to me, the logical space is the 1st floor. I had asked Kevin to be present in the meeting. I appreciate you allowing him to do so. Kevin may have more things he wants to say. I don't know.
I can speak to this to some degree if that's what you like, Supervisor Zieber.
I think that would be helpful. Then we'll see if anyone has questions, Kevin.
All right, I'm hoping is on everybody's screen a plan sheet that basically is hatched in a couple areas and shows some red lines. Is that on the screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, so that area right there is veterans on the 2nd floor. I'm going to try to use my cursor to see if I can kind of give you an indication where it is. So this is basically the front door downstairs in the Human Services building. You would come in the front door downstairs, come over to the elevator. This is the elevator. You'd come up on the 2nd floor, and then the areas that we're looking at, or that were, I guess I want to say, offered, were this storage area, this staff development office, and then this office here. Now, Marcy only has, that's only 3 spaces. She actually has four, I believe, four attorneys. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marcy, but I believe you said four.
Yes.
So this would give three of those offices. What we are looking at is a possibility of, and this was just looking at it to try to keep everyone in the same space, is to move Denise out of her office here, create a new office for her over here, take this wall out, put a hallway in here, and this would be the wall for the hallway, and then you'd have Marcy's attorneys would come in here. This would be veteran services over on this side, and then they come to this hallway right here, and there'd be one office, two office. The other two would have to come around this direction. Marcy's right; they're right next to the elevators. They're right next to the bathrooms. There's also access, very quick access, if they wanted to get back on the elevator and go to some of the training areas, either on the first floor or on the third floor, to do a little bit more of the attorney-client or a couple attorneys client meetings. So that's one of the spaces we were looking for. We've kind of done a ballpark figure in this area for reworking the wall, adding a doorway in, adding the wall in here, probably redoing some electrical work as well as some HVAC work. We're probably in the range of anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 for that work in that area. The next one, and I'll stay here for a minute if anybody has any questions on this one, and I'm going to jump down to the first floor one fairly quickly. Does anybody have any questions on this part of it?
Kevin? Yeah. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Supervisor Leggett, please.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor Sieber. That storage isn't being used, or would storage have to be relocated?
It would have to be relocated somewhere. It's storage for Department of Social Services. I'm not sure which department it may be, but it's for one of them, and they do have other space that they're not using right now that they could. Basically, Chris Hanchett said that they could put that storage somewhere else. They have other areas that they could move that into. That staff development office right now is an empty office, and the other office next to Denise's office is empty. One thing I didn't add, and I didn't realize this until Marcy and I had a conversation Friday. I believe Denise is looking to hire somebody else in veterans. I'm not sure where that stands, but if that being the case, this whole area right now in veterans is filing cabinets across here and filing cabinets across here. Now, I'm not sure if any of them can be put in storage anywhere else besides here, but these are all the filing cabinets in this area that Denise has. So if we go this route and kind of move Denise out here, if she was to hire somebody, they'd have to be out here, but we'd have to find storage for all the filing cabinets that Denise has in veterans.
And what would that Denise's office space be? You have your scale there. It looks pretty small.
It's no different than this. This is her office space now. It's basically it may be shorter, but it's wider. This one's narrower, but it's a little bit longer. I try to keep the space about the same.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Supervisor Beatty, did you have a question?
Yeah, Marcy, you mentioned that the second floor potentially had legal issues of people overhearing your meetings with your clients. Why would that be? I'm just trying to figure this out.
Sure. The walls are not soundproof. So if you're speaking to someone outside the door, outside the wall could hear, potentially. We have that problem currently where we are now, but there's not people walking by our offices except EMS, and they continue to walk and they don't stop and listen. They're very respectful of us. So that could be an issue. Versus on the second floor of Human Services building, I don't know who's walking by. I don't know how often the bathrooms are used. Literally, we came up, we saw the space, we left. We did not do a study as to how many people use the bathrooms or how often or anything else. So I am concerned about attorney-client confidentiality at all times.
Okay, thanks.
I'll also add to that, Marcy, that I think there has been a risk assessment done by Needham in the past. This is a issue that we're continuing to talk about. fortunately for Marcy's office, they do have some revenue streams that come in through the different grants to be able to reimburse the county for different things. So there's a long-term discussion going on here of what to do with the old jail. We're talking about Capcore, all different things. So I think these are, really important discussions to have, and may have a temporary plan, a short-term and a long-term. But I know Marcy wanted to keep the committee apprised on what's going on with it. Are there any questions from the committee room this morning regarding it?
Yes, Ms. Shepherd has a question. Thank you. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I'm understanding it is there is the least amount of disruption and no additional construction required if we maintain the new offices on the first floor. By going to the second floor, we have construction, we have concern of privacy, and you're opening up the building in essence to anybody going beyond. First floor, it's confined and considered, from what I'm understanding, to be the safer location.
In my opinion, yes. I believe in Kevin Hayjos's opinion also, but I may be misspeaking.
Is that correct, Kevin?
That is correct. I'm actually, give me a minute. I'm not an expert at this. Get my screen back up. I lost the one photo of the first floor, and I wanted to pull that up so everybody could see it.
Supervisor Leggett?
Unmute.
Well, we're looking for the first floor there. Those offices are not used by Human Services or DSS?
When I walked by, there was one person in one of those offices. I don't know what the person was doing. I saw there was a person in it. I didn't open the door, didn't speak to them, didn't communicate with them. So I don't know.
I think the purpose of us, and not to cut you off, Mars, I think the purpose of us having this discussion today is just, as an FYI, hopefully, we can have consensus of the committee in terms of just a recommendation, but ultimately this will be hit over to our county administrator and our, Kevin and Marcy and Chris to all work out on what's going to be the best case scenario. And again, looking for those short and long-term potentials, for a safe place as well. Is that correct, Ryan? Like you guys are all working on this, trying to do the best job possible to get Marcy situated? Sorry, I think I grabbed you while you were on the phone.
Yeah, I was on the phone with a supervisor. I didn't hear any of that.
It's okay. Just that you guys are working on a solution for Marcy, the best case scenario. I think it's the preference of the committee from what I'm hearing so far is just to try to get her in the first floor. It looks like it might be the least disruptive, but also, working with Chris to make sure that that's doable to move around different people should the need arise.
Well, yeah, the second piece of that is the critical piece. Chris was on vacation last week, and there are some regulatory barriers to using that space on the first floor. So we need to fully flesh this out.
Okay, well, I think definitely what we want to be able to do is support Marcy and support Chris at the same time as well, and
Right.
find that space. So this is more of an FYI update. But Kevin, if you just want to add in what you were talking about, as well, then I know we're running a few minutes over, so we can move right to the next.
So I'll go over the first floor one real quick. I don't have the whole first floor shown on here, but basically where you see my cursor right now is basically where you come into the front lobby. So anybody that came in, they would come past the security desk and the magnetometer. And then Marcy's attorneys would come over there and greet them. But basically they would take them down through this hallway and down to these are the interview rooms that we're referring to. They're basically back-to-back interview rooms with closed doors. As far as privacy concerns, again, these are all interview rooms as well. So Chris, I believe, and his staff use these as well as this. Now, these are all not full at one time. Right now they're not really full at all because we haven't had anybody coming into the building. This used to be the area where employment and training was for a period of time. They were using this area. And then when they had found their space, these basically just went back to the interview rooms again. So they could, the attorneys could walk them down here, put them into these rooms, and then they could have the conversations with them and then escort them right back out. Again, there's 10 interview rooms here and another 4 here. We thought these 4 separated from these 10. This would still give Chris this 10 over here, and these 4 may be ideal for Marcy's attorneys to use. Again, I don't know all of Chris's regulations and needs. We just looked at these and thought there's no construction work that's needed here. The bottom line, they're set and ready to go. If they couldn't use this room as kind of one of their conference rooms, we have two big ones right here that if they had to go in there and use them around and schedule them to be able to use them, they could use these as well. So that's basically the first floor. No work is needed. No construction is needed. They could just move right into them.
Can I cut you off, Kevin?
Yep.
Whoever's running this Zoom call, could you please let Supervisor Hogan into it?
Hogan, you've been cut off?
She's been in the holding room for 10 minutes.
That lady.
Andrea, you're here, I think.
I'm back in finally. Thank you.
Welcome back. Are there questions for Kevin or, anything moving forward? Because, our hope is that we're able to come to a solution in a time frame that's reasonable. I know Supervisor Beatty had a conference call with Ryan and Frank. We all met, last month, and hopefully we'll reconvene. And now that we know there's a possibility over in the DSS building, we'll of course include Chris and Ben on that as well.
So
I have one question. Sorry,
Of course. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut off Supervisor Beatty there.
sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, we once upon a time, and this is not to say we go back to it. I just want to know that all the options are being looked at. Once upon a time, we were looking at space over in the Travelers building, and there was a problem with the lease. Did we ever circle back to see if whatever problem that was could be worked out, just so we know if that's a plan B?
The county attorney's office told me that if they could resolve it, they'll be in touch with me, and I have not heard that it's gotten resolved.
Who was working on that? Do you remember?
Mr. Dickey, I believe.
All right.
I have to look at my notes back in the office. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk offline about that.
Okay, great. So I think just in the interest of time, I'm sorry, Doug, you had a question.
Well, just a recap, because I know we're running late. So it looks like Marcy prefers the first floor. Looks like from a financial standpoint and logistically, the first floor works. But we have to be very concerned about the legality first, and making sure we overcome all those hurdles from a social services standpoint. Is that correct? Is that the recap?
That's how I understand it. Please, does anyone see it different? You're correct. Was that it, Supervisor Bain?
Yeah, that's it. I just want to make sure I'm clear in my mind.
Okay, very good. All right, Marcy, so we'll continue to move forward doing our due diligence has been sent out to the group in the comments. And, I think that's what we're all trying to do, to just come up with a solution that meets everyone's needs, but certainly wanted to make sure as these conversations were going on that the committee was aware of the discussions and how we're trying to come to that solution. So thank you to everyone for that. If there's no further conversation on it.
I believe that Supervisor McGowan had his hand up.
Oh, thanks. Hi, Brad. Sorry, I can't see you.
Morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've talked to Marcy, and I know I've talked to Rachel. This I really like what we're trying to do here. The whole thing I'm looking at, also we have to keep in consideration is the efficiency of keeping her department closer together. And, to put things back and forth, and plus the security and everything else. We got a, $20 million courthouse that we're still working on and getting there. And I have, and now we're running out of space. And it's very frustrating to me that everybody trying to figure this out. Keeping her department together is something that we also really should think about. I like the idea of the first floor as a, even if it's a temporary thing, where there is no construction cost and we can get her flowing together. But I really think we need to focus on keeping her department all together, finishing up the new courthouse and all the renovations that have to go over there so we can move these departments around. And is there any other departments over here that we might be able to move over there that would be more secure, for instances like tourism, there's not too many security issues we have to worry about over there. I'm just throwing things out here. I'd like to, I don't know, just trying to think out of the box here, and that's all. Thank you.
And thanks, Brad. We appreciate that. And those comments are really good ones. And I think these suggestions are really important for all, especially Ryan and Chris and Kevin to all hear in terms of what we're looking at. One of the most positive things that came out of this is now Kevin was able to go through and kind of determine in that DSS building or the Human Services building, what offices are available, how to best use that space. And, I think given the money that we have our taxpayers have invested into that building, we want to maximize that as best as we can. So good suggestions, good feedback, and we'll put that all in moving forward. And just in the interest of time, in case anyone objects, I'm going to move on and just ask if there's any public comment. Sorry, you can hear my grandson. Are there any public comments?
No, Chairwoman Sieber, no public comments on YouTube as of now.
Perfect. And if there's nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn? That's made by Supervisor Beatty, seconded by Supervisor Leggett. All in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone oppose?